I believe that collaboration, working together, partnership is critical if China is going to meet their global food security needs or their China food security needs. And certainly it allows the U.S. to be able to fulfill its opportunity to be an important supplier to the world and to China. You know, without collaboration, we wouldn't be in communication, we wouldn't know the needs of one another. An event like this really allows us the opportunity to communicate not so much at a high level, government to government, but really at a kind of practitioner level. The industry people that are here, the trade association people like myself that are here, the farmers that are here, the provincial people from China, the industry people from China, all of us can talk about the issues that are important and how we can work together to try and overcome those and make things better. You know, China has grown to be an important part of the U.S. soy market. I think the number last year was approximately 40% of our total soy exports went to China. So if we didn't have China as a customer, it would certainly make things more challenging.
We are the two largest producing countries in the world, two largest economies in the world. We have 8 billion people on the planet. We got another billion to 2 billion people coming to dinner in the next 30 to 40 years. They're not going to come from China, they're not going to come from the US, but they're going to eat the stuff we produce if they're going to eat. If they don't eat the stuff we produce, and that they produce themselves, they will eat the rest of the planet. We will not have other life on the planet. We'll have about 8 species of animals and maybe 25 species of plants. We are eating the planet now. It is incumbent upon China and the US to work together to create a resilient, robust, and more importantly, productive agricultural economy. If we're going to have any sort of relationship between the US and China, it has to be between the people of the US and the people in China. And that's why this Ag Roundtable is so important, because China is our roommate on this planet. We can't just draw a line down the middle of the room and say, I'll live on this half and you'll live on that half. We have to live together. So when we talk about economic prosperity, it really starts and ends with food. The fact that the United States Heartland China Association was able to convene this meeting in 2023 in spite of the tensions between our nations indicates the power of this sort of collaborative. It reflects how valuable we all recognize these conversations are.
The U.S.-China Agricultural Roundtable is important because we must find ways to communicate and engage with one another. Real relationships must have critical and consistent engagement. Without that, it's almost impossible to build a real relationship. An event like the U.S.-China Agricultural Roundtable helps us get beyond the politics. This relationship with China is very significant because for their country, while they have 10% of the world's agricultural arable land, the U.S. is one of the largest and most efficient producers of agricultural commodities. So we must work together, and that means exporting and importing both ways. It's critical for the relationship between the U.S. and China for both of our economies to grow.
From the Illinois perspective, Chinese markets probably couldn't be more important. So much of our soybean production goes to China. We're the largest soybean producing state in the nation. And the universities, land-grant universities in the Heartland have been very active in China, helping them with their crop production, with their livestock production, with their food processing and production when they were a less developed country. Now they've become more developed, they're more sophisticated consumers, so now they're an important trading partner, but it has a rich history, and it's been a diplomatic history, not a contentious one, here in the Heartland where we all like to trust each other and be frank with each other. Well, far be it from me to advise anybody who's in federal leadership positions, whether it's Congress or the administration, but China bashing is just, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. It doesn't leave the door open for the kind of relationships that we can have. There's much more effective ways of dealing with our friends and our enemies than bashing them, especially publicly. And that's why our friendships with China are so important. Midwest agriculture is so important in this China-U.S. trade relationship because we can provide the commodities that they want at great value because it's great volumes, and we can provide processed foods like meat and further processed foods that they value highly and would like to have. I think what USHCA is doing is so valuable, so important, and they fill a role that can't be provided by, a government with an agenda or certainly not by military means. It's just a way to build friendships around the globe where you have that nugget of understanding that you can build on for bigger issues. China and the United States have a lot in common, and I think because of those common areas that we care about, those common foundations of decency and wanting to do business, I think the future looks bright.
I'm a grandfather, and I've seen lots of kids around the world that certainly don't have the chances that my children and my grandchildren have. And I think every kid deserves a chance, and that begins with proper nutrition to give them the opportunity to grow up healthy and to have a positive contribution to their community. So the reason it's important for the U.S. and China to work together as it relates to food security is because we are one of the most productive agricultural entities in the world. The reason, as a soybean farmer, the reason that it's important that we have a relationship with China is when I look out my shop window, I see 6 out of every 10 rows are going into an export market. And about 40% of those rows are going to China. As I said earlier, they have 20% of the world's population, and they can't grow all the food that they need.
Civil society plays a critical role in elevating the discourse, making sure that we're putting the real issues on the table and creating the conditions for solutions to emerge. Well, the Heartland is really the heartbeat of agriculture in the U.S. And so we're bringing in farmers. It's easy to get farmers to be here. It's easy to have the relevant companies to attend, to see operations, to see what's going on in the field.
There's a better road than to look at China as an adversary. Today's conference is critical because we need to build bridges to China. We need to build opportunities for business leaders to come together, remove the politics, remove the diatribe, and talk about what we can do together to do more business with one another.